Welcome to the next installment of these video lessons. Today I'm going to talk to you about the extreme weather conditions and the US population melting pot or salad bowl. We are going to look into these expressions later on. So let's start with extreme weather conditions. This is just an aerial image of Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana in 2005. Many of you would probably not remember much of this natural catastrophe, but it was a big wake-up call to the world. So first of all, let's look a little bit into what is the reason for these violent storms. And the obvious answer comes from mountains. And let's compare Europe with America. Because in Europe we are pretty much on the same length geographically, but still the weather conditions are much more favorable. They are much calmer. We don't have hurricanes, blizzards, and tornadoes as they do in America. So what's the reason for this? Well, it's them, the Alps and the Pyrenees. These two beautiful mountains which slow down and stop the cold air coming from the north hitting straight on the hot air coming from Africa. So instead of these two big waves of very different airs, they slowly cool down pretty much to the same degrees, and this is why we don't experience the same extreme weather as in North America, where you have the Appalachian in the east and the Rockies on the west, but in between the two it's basically big flat country, so it's ideal for the cold air coming from the north. These are also called the northers, and the hot air coming from the tropics to meet head-on and create natural catastrophes. So let's look into some of these natural catastrophes. We are going to talk about blizzards, tornadoes, and hurricanes. So what's a blizzard? A blizzard is basically a lot of snow falling in a very short time. One of the most extreme examples was the 192 centimeters in 24 hours, so almost 2 meters of snow in 24 hours in Silver Lake, Colorado. The deadliest and the biggest blizzard so far was the Great Blizzard of 1888 in the Northeast, which took the lives of some 400 people. It's a brilliant image of the Great Blizzard of 1888 that you can see here. Okay, so tornadoes, or tornadoes if you prefer. How do they come about? You've got rising warm air, which hits some cold air and creates a massive flux of energy which can explode houses, as you can see in this picture. The fastest tornado so far measured was 318 kilometers per hour. These are usually very short-lived but very intense. One of the biggest tornadoes was the 1925 tri-state tornado, which took the lives of hundreds of people, altogether 695 people, and it rampaged through 3 Midwest states. This is a cover of a newspaper, the headline of a newspaper from March the 20th, 1925, as you can see. Also quite interesting find here is the most tornado-prone cities in the US. As you see, Oklahoma definitely leads the list, but many other cities in the central part of the United States, also referred to as the Tornado Alley, as you can see in this play. And the shocking number is 800. There are 800 tornadoes a year all over the United States. Going to hurricanes, we've already mentioned Hurricane Katrina. It's basically a massive, massive storm with about 150 mile diameter, 150 miles diameter, and it travels at a speed of 150 miles per hour, so it's well around 200 kilometers per hour. One of the deadliest, one of the biggest tornado to date was in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina took the lives of some 1,400 victims. So how does a hurricane come round? It's basically some warm, water-saturated air starts moving up and then starts mixing with, as it's turning anti-clockwise, it starts mixing with some humid warm air from the Atlantic, which leads to a massive, massive outburst of energy, and this is what causes hurricanes. Now, moving on to the US population, just very quickly, this is probably all very well known historical information for all of you, so I will be just very, very, very quick. The first wave of the US population, obviously we had the natives, the Native Americans and the Inuits who had lived in the area for thousands and thousands of years. And then the invasion or the settling of Northern Europeans from England and the Netherlands started, which brought the black slave trade in the 17th and 18th century. And up until the 1820s, Holland and England were the most important sources of immigration to the US. Between 1820 and 1860, the number of Irish people moving to the country, to the United States, was massive. Between 41 and 51, there was a massive potato hunger or potato famine in Ireland, and this map just shows you very well how rapidly and to what massive extent the population of Ireland fell in that one decade. But some areas, significant areas, lost over 30% of their population at the time. Following this, or even at the same time as this, Germans looking for political and religious freedom started arriving, and then the next big influx was 500,000, 500,000 Italians arriving from Italy in the 1880s. You probably remember from history that this is the Italian unification time, very, very unstable times in Italy, and living conditions weren't too rosy, especially in the south. Then there was a period of relatively low immigration into the United States in the early 20th century, partly due to the two world wars. Moving around the world wasn't that easy at the time, but then the 1950s brought a big influx of Asians, specifically from South Korea, Vietnam and China. And of course, the immigration everybody is talking about these days is the Hispanics arriving in massive numbers. Of course, here I show Mexico, but of course it's not just Mexico, but the rest of Latin America. So everybody is converging on America. So all these people are coming. What do they do? And here we are going to have to learn two new expressions. You are probably familiar with both of them, but just very quickly, we are talking about ethnic segregation, pretty much the idea that people of the same country or same area move close to each other. This is the so-called salad bowl concept, social concept, which means that instead of creating one homogeneous country, the United States is like a salad bowl of a variety of different cultures, ethnic groups, and traditions and languages. Another tendency in terms of segregation, so people separating themselves, is a bit less positive probably to most people. It's a social segregation, which means that people with the same income or the same jobs tend to move to the same area, which leads to poorer and richer areas in the country. I found this map quite fascinating. If you pause the video recording here and have a little bit of a look at this segment of New York, and look at where all these people live, and how concentrated the different ethnic groups are in the greater New York area, is quite fascinating, and a lot of interesting information can be drawn from this image. Another social concept about America is the so-called melting pot idea, that we all come from different backgrounds, but at the end of the day we end up being Americans. This does not really seem to be the case, but there have been movements which try to create the American identity independent from the national identity of the people representing it. This has so far not been very, very successful. So before we go to the to that part, sorry about the typo, I'm not going to correct it now, but the questions that I'm going to ask you on Friday very quickly. First question: what is the reason for the more extreme weather in North America than in Europe? Number 2, explain what a blizzard is. Number 3, tell us what's a twister and how many are there in the US a year. I might not have mentioned this, but twister is just a different name for a tornado. Okay, but you probably knew this already. Number 4, who were the first settlers in North America? So we are going to move to the social segment. And the last question is, what's the difference between segregation and integration? I think these are fairly self-explanatory questions, but I would really appreciate your input in them. And then at the end of the class, I would like you to work on one of these projects, get together with one or two other people, and choose one of these topics and discuss it together. The biggest natural catastrophes in the US: Hurricane Katrina, US population, Hispanics in the US, illegal immigration, life in a segregated community, the struggle of black people, historical struggle of black people, and Native Americans and the Inuit today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I really enjoyed putting it together for you. Thank you very much, and see you in class on Thursday. Bye-bye.